Thanks very much, everybody, for joining us, and welcome to the next mobile session. So today we have Google's Mobile Moments, which is a Mobile Moments narrative by Jared Molko, who's joining us from the France office. He is actually the mobile brand lead in EMEA for BSI, which, as we heard earlier, is a part of CSI. So just thanks very much for coming here today and joining us and giving us an insight to Mobile Moments.
Cool, thanks, Katrina. So yeah, I'm currently on the BSI product team, not looking after a particular product, rather just making sure that across all of our different products and formats and measurement solutions that we're kind of connecting all the dots to have a strong kind of cohesive mobile offering. Most of my time and attention is around mobile video. And I'm sure you guys will be aware that mobile video is a real kind of growing area of the digital ad spend or media spend side of the business. So we want to make sure that, we are a cross-screen company, but, when the time does come, depending on where the client is at and what the kind of conversations are happening, that we have a strong positioning for ourselves in the market. Especially considering how strong Facebook goes into the market with their mobile offering. It's important for us to make sure that, if we need to call out our mobile strengths and our differentiators, that we have a strong vocabulary and we're understanding what our kind of positioning is. And that's the purpose of this narrative. It's, call it relatively high level. This is to kind of, for your kind of brand managers, CMOs, potentially at events, to try and kind of position ourselves strongly and make sure that we're seen as a #1 partner when it comes to growing brands in the mobile space. So I'm going to take you through the narrative. It should take 35 minutes to 40 minutes. And then if you have questions, leave them for the end, and we'll have about 10 minutes of Q&A then, if that's all right. Cool. So before we dive into the meat and bones of the presentation, I think it's important we take a kind of position on what we believe is the best approach for brands to grow, especially in the digital world. And we're not going to recreate the wheel here. We're going to take a kind of key learnings from this book called How Brands Grow by a guy named Byron Sharp. It's a kind of best-selling book in regards to the science of marketing. And if you read the 250-page book, you could essentially distill it down into 3 core concepts. One is find potential customers in your category and light users of your brand. Speak to them as often as possible, especially prior to purchase, and make it easy for them to remember, find, and buy a product. Now, you're probably thinking that sounds pretty simple, and yes, it does sound pretty simple, but to get all of this right can be quite complicated, especially in the digital world that we live in today. 2 key things to call out here is that he doesn't make any mention of fans. And it's not to say that we shouldn't be, delighting our loyal customers. This is more from a media perspective in terms of growing your market share. So really focusing on potential customers and light users of your brand is really going to move the needle and help brands grow. And similarly, in terms of providing a frictionless experience in order to move someone from awareness to purchase is key. And I'll explain how mobile really helps with delivering on that type of promise. So in terms of marketing and marketing objectives, nothing has changed. Our marketing objectives very much have remained the same since the beginning of marketing and branding. Essentially boils down into how can you find more customers, how do you stand out in an even more so cluttered marketplace, and how do you measure results and understand return on your investment. So marketing objectives remain the same. However, our behaviors have evolved and our behaviors have changed. And if we were doing this presentation 3 years ago, we'd be speaking a lot about online to offline, offline to online, etc., etc. But in developed worlds and many emerging markets, thanks to the mobile phone, we are constantly online. We live online thanks to our mobile devices. We have them in our pockets wherever we go. Our mobile devices are never an arm's length away from us. There is even a type of anxiety called nomophobia, which is the fear of being without your mobile phone, which is actually classed as a legitimate anxiety that people suffer from. On average, we're checking our phone between 100 to 150 times a day, which is quite staggering. There's an app out there for all you mobile addicts called Checky, Checky. You can download that, and that app will tell you how many times you're actually opening your phone during the course of a day. So if you want to try and wean yourself off of the mobile addiction, that's quite a nice way of doing it. But essentially, the point here is that we really are spending a hell of a lot of our time with our mobile phones. It's our personal assistant. It helps us get from point A to point B. And what this has led to is it's led to a myriad of what we're calling moments that matter. For the purposes of this presentation, I've bucketed them into 5 kind of major themes, but there are many, many more different types of moments that are occurring in someone's life during the course of a day. But for the purposes here, it's like I want to watch or be entertained, I want to know, I want to find, I want to buy. Now, I'm sure we can all resonate that we have many of these different moments ourselves. You know, I want to find a new look. I want to learn how to play the guitar, etc., etc. There's many, many moments that are happening, and this presents a great opportunity for brands, and as well as a complexity which hopefully we're going to be able to solve. Why this is important for brands? Well, it's important for brands because these are moments of intent that someone is showing. These are the moments when preferences are being shaped. These are the moments when decisions are being made. And if a brand really wants to be front of mind and influence the purchase decision, a brand needs to be present in those moments to really grow their business. Now, aside from going to YouTube and watching, you know, content around gaming and music, which is, you know, and general entertainment, there are a whole host of other things that people are going to YouTube for, which also kind of symbolize the opportunity for brands to be relevant in these moments. Personally, so now I'm living in Paris, and my French is really not good, and I've had to learn well, I have a French washing machine, which I have no idea how to use, and I went to YouTube to look for the brand to try and figure out how to use this washing machine. And I'm sure, you know, many of you guys can resonate with these types of experiences. Unfortunately, the brand didn't have any English tutorials, so there was a moment that brand lost out for me, and I don't think I would purchase that brand again. But the point of the slide, and we've released a lot of Ipsos research, which is in this deck, which you'll get access to, is that there's so many different types of things that people are using YouTube for. And aside from that, from a mobile perspective, people are using their mobile phones simultaneously whilst performing any given task. So if you're looking for a cooking recipe, often people will turn to their mobile phones in the act of making the meal. I turn to my mobile phone in the act of trying to figure out how to use my washing machine. These are simultaneous experiences that, if a brand gets the content right, can have a really meaningful meaningful engagement with their audience and really kind of move the needle in terms of one's affinity. Now, these moments are happening throughout the course of a day, right? And if you think of the old paradigm of you know, traditional buying, where it's reach your maximum audience during peak periods and specific kind of consumption periods in the course of a day, that doesn't necessarily apply anymore. Because we're constantly connected, because we're constantly checking our mobile phones, these moments are happening all the time. And for a brand to be, you know, our consumers are always on, and for a brand it's also important that they're always on and making sure that they're front of mind. What's driving this growth? Well, I alluded to it earlier. There's no mistaking that mobile video is really accelerating at tremendous speeds. It's basically the choice type of format that millennials and Generation Z are wanting to consume. We've seen massive growth in mobile video views. You know that YouTube is delivering more mobile views than anything else on YouTube. YouTube as a platform is growing at around 48% year over year on watch time. Mobile is accelerating at around 100% year over year watch time. So mobile video really is where it's at in terms of consumption. And brands are going to start to have to think really, you know, a little bit more so about the right type of content that will suit the medium and the experience, which we'll get a little bit into. Now, all of this sounds exciting, but of course, with new developments and evolution and shifting in behavior, it comes with a whole bunch of challenges. And those challenges could be distilled into three types of core challenges. One is the fragmentation of the audience thanks to the app environment. So the proliferation of apps has made it quite difficult for brands to know which places to play in, what is a brand safe environment and what isn't. A large number of apps that are getting a lot of usage are gaming apps, and some environments are conducive for brands and others aren't. So there's a lot of complexity around solving, how to reach your audience in a very fragmented space. The other challenge is around the intimacy and personal nature of the environment. Mobile is a very intimate environment. It's with us all the time, and people don't like to be disrupted in those moments. And people are actually more selective on mobile in receiving communications than they are on other devices. So we do need to take that in mind. And thankfully, Google as a company, we're well positioned in terms of building very effective native formats and choice-based formats like TrueView to kind of fall in line with consumer behavior. And the third one is measurement, and we've been working on measurement for a while. Measurement, both from a performance perspective and from a branding perspective, has been tricky. We've solved and are solving more and more the cross-device unified view of the user to help brands really understand where their audience is at and the value that they're getting from us from their investments. From a search perspective, understanding the attribution in terms of the role that mobile plays along the path to purchase is also challenging, but we have the capabilities to solve these. So essentially, our aim here is to help kind of simplify the complexity and the challenges that are out there that brands face. And the way that we're doing this is twofold. One is that we're gathering more signals, more data from different platforms at different stages of the purchase cycle than anyone else. We're gathering the signal and we're applying our best-in-class technology and engineering to make a lot of sense out of this. And through our ad-serving platforms, we're helping advertisers very seamlessly scale across these different platforms. As you can see from this very nice kind of screen grab of a McDonald's creative across YouTube, an interstitial in an app, when someone's surfing the web, whether it be desktop and mobile, within the Google search environment, and all the way to Gmail. It's a very powerful illustration of what we're capable of. And again, I'll call out the ability to access people during different stages and different mind states across their purchase cycle, which no one else essentially in the market can offer at the kind of scale that we can. So how are we going to go about delivering on this? This brings me to our kind of three kind of branding pillars, which you may or may not have seen in our Google One Ad story. But essentially, we want to help brands reach better qualified people at scale, and I'll call out the qualified piece. In that section, I'll go through the kind of signals and how we're actually defining our audiences to make sure that we're delivering on the right people. Impact, how the mobile environment lends itself towards delivering greater impact, as well as YouTube, and our solutions when it comes to delivering on measurable results. So for the reach part, I'd like to play you a video. Hopefully you can, I'll actually show what that is. Sorry guys, that was from a previous presentation. So I just want to play you this video. I hope you can hear it.
Your mom's a terrible driver. Get in. That's not my mom. Hey, I'm sort of your mom. We're both 25 to 35 years old. We're both women on the go, and we both clocked a lot of miles. Believe me. Whatever, I'm out of here.
Sort of you isn't you. Only eSurance has coverage my way. It helps make sure.
So why do you guys think I played you that video? Any suggestion? Yes, no? So the reason I played that is aside for taking a poke at the demise of Lindsay Lohan's career, is that that's a kind of not an accurate but an interesting illustration in the way that we can think about demographic targeting. It's not to say that demographic targeting, it's an important part of targeting, but and it will always be kind of present in the way that we kind of is our starting point for defining our audiences. But in the digital age, you've got so much more context, so much more signal, so much more information to really understand who is and isn't in market. And any kind of traditional buyer will tell you that, targeting someone purely by demographic, there's a considerable amount of wastage because sort of you isn't you, and I may fit a certain demographic profile, but it doesn't mean that I'm interested in a particular type of product. So we're trying to solve all of that, and essentially the signals of yesterday's wish list are very much today's reality, and we have targeting capabilities that allow us to identify who is in fact in market for a particular type of product. We understand who is chosen and engaged with your brand, and we use that as a signal of interest and qualification. And we're also able to extrapolate who are similar types of audiences, as the technology would suggest. Now, in terms of the types of signals that we're gathering a combination of both what people declare, so the declared information, as well as inferred information in terms of people's browsing behaviors, the content that they're watching, etc. And why we think that's more powerful than just having, for example, what people declare is that what people declare in a public environment or in a social environment is often a picture of who you were or a picture of what you would like others to see you as. It is not the full picture of who you really are, and I know personally I've done this, and I'm sure most people can relate, where on Facebook, for example, I've put out books that I'm interested in that I've never read before, like quantum mechanics and deep philosophical books that make me look really a deep thinker and a deep guy. I like to think I am, but the reality is that I spend most of my time reading football blogs. That's not something that I'm going to declare online, but it's something that I would be able to understand based on, or as a company, we would be able to understand based on my browsing and content consumption behaviors. So that's why we think having a kind of view of both is a better way of understanding who we really are and helping brands really connect with those people that are in fact interested in you. So for in-market types of audiences, Google has been indexing the web since it started, and that's kind of its core mission, and that's where we excel better than anyone else. We understand semantics on websites, and we understand what different websites categories are, and we understand deep linkages within websites. So if someone's browsing online and they're browsing on comparison pages, they're going and looking at different types of products. They're, for example, an auto example, they're going and looking at different dealerships. We look at people's browsing behaviors, and we look at the types of pages these people are browsing and the types of content these people are browsing on YouTube. So you're looking at different types of cars and product comparisons, and we group these audiences to make the assumption that this person clearly has shown that they're in market for a particular type of product. Again, to go back to the previous slide, is that this guy or myself, we could declare that I love Mercedes-Benz, but that's kind of an aspirational buy. The reality is that I can only afford a Toyota, and if I was targeting people just purely based on that declaration, I'd be missing the mark. So this is where we can really hone in, and for a brand like Toyota, who may not have the biggest above-the-line budgets, this is a really effective way of kind of honing in on people who are a lot more likely to actually purchase their product or their service. In terms of identifying affinity audiences, well, and who are our passionate enthusiasts, we look at people's recency and repeated behaviors. So here's an example of some friend. I think these guys are dancers. They're twins. They obviously fall into the same demographic profile. But simplistically, we're looking at, well, if one guy spends half of his time on the web on fashion-related content, he must be an enthusiast, versus the other guy spending only a tenth of his time. So we're able to take that as among many other signals to really make the distinction between who are your enthusiasts and who are just passerbyers. And I think being able to really segment audiences based on passion points, which we're doing with affinity targeting, is very powerful, and we see that in the results that we deliver. For me, one of the most powerful most powerful signals we have, which maybe sometimes we don't allude to as much, because we talk of the TrueView format a lot of the time as a skippable format. I would say that it's more of a choice-based format, and that changes one's perspective to the interaction that's taking place. For me, if someone chooses to engage with a video, especially in a mobile environment where people are more selective, if someone chooses to engage with a piece of content, it's a very, very strong signal that they're interested in what the brand communication is and potentially interested in your product. So I think that's a fantastic way of us really identifying audiences at scale, which we help clients deliver on. We obviously, as you guys know, don't charge brands if people don't engage, and we make it very cost effective to re-engage with these people. In terms of additional signals that mobile specifically brings to the table, that you could be distilled into location and time, which gives us a bit more context, and this is where mobile gives us a bit more context about the intent and where the consumer is at. We have location and proximity targeting capabilities. Depending on the market that you're in, depending on the accuracy of the internet service provider in terms of IP routing, etc., we can hone into around 150-meter proximity radius. We can target via postal code. We can target via city, as you guys know. The power of location obviously comes in where you want a tentpole around a particular event or a particular location. You've got certain promotions you want to deliver on. Some people are using location intelligently in terms of psychographic targeting. So some locations will be high net wealth postal codes, for example. Some postal codes will be very hipster postal codes. And it's a way of layering additional information, so as a brand you can deliver really relevant communication. From a time perspective, we could boil down people using their mobile phones for 3 core activities. Communication, which was the kind of original reason we had the mobile phone, and a lot of that communication now is around texting or instant messaging. Utility, so we turn to our phones to help us solve problems, get from point A to point B, and make our lives faster and simpler, and for entertainment. Now, when we're taking these signals into account, and from a brand's perspective, it's important to highlight here that a brand shouldn't try and freak out here and to think, okay, well, at what stage is my consumer going to turn to their phone to use it as a utility or turn to it to want to entertain themselves? That's not what we're saying here. What we're saying is that a brand needs to be content ready for these types of activities, and we as an ad-serving platform, as a platform that's taking these intentional-based signals into account, we will serve the right type of content for the right type of occasion. So it's just a way of framing it in terms of thinking of the types of content that will be useful. So how does this all translate, and what does the kind of theory amount to? If you were to kind of take all of this capability, what you would be able to do as an actual execution could look something like this. Say, for example, I was selling ice creams and I wanted to reach people in the Tuileries Gardens for a particular type of promotion I had for those people. It may have been an event that was happening on the day. So I can make sure that I target for that specific day. I can make sure that I'm more visible around, the noon to afternoon period when people are hungry or it's at the temperatures at its highest, and I can drill into the specific type of content to deliver to those people in that location. Now, you could even take it a step further, and this speaks to the similar audiences functionality that we have. If you had a client who was running previous campaigns, you would know that some people that could be at Tuileries, or some people that are part of their target audience are gamers, and typically like communications of ice cream that show how beautiful and how exciting the ice cream is. And then you have others that eat your ice cream that are calorie counters. And if you were using your kind of remarketing lists and using your communications intelligently, you'd be able to segment these two different types of audiences and hone in even more to those people in the Tuileries Garden to deliver the right kind of message. So if you think about that, that's super hyper-local relevancy, and we're talking video content here. This is not necessarily a search environment. So from a brand communication perspective, this is really, really being relevant for a particular moment. You'll see here I've got like a kind of include localized reach stats. This is a global reach number. This is something that if you want to really like drive home the fact that Google is really a massive player in the market across multiple properties. This is a slide that you can use. We can reach, if anyone ever wanted to or had the budget to, 2.9 billion people every month. You know, across our Gmail, across YouTube, across search, across our display and app networks. So we have tremendous reach, and it's something that we should be very kind of strong on when communicating. And anything that falls outside of our owned and operated properties, we have our double-click programmatic offering, which is also kind of one of the stronger or the strongest offering in the market. Impact. So in terms of how we have been consuming content, as you'll see from this graphic, the content we consume is moving closer and closer and closer to our actual physical selves. And you know, we talk about, or we've seen Google Glass and virtual reality and contact lenses. Content, you know, who knows where it's going, but it's becoming more a 360-degree video. It's becoming more and more immersive. And with mobile in particular, I feel like mobile has had a bit of a hard rap because people think of mobile as a small screen. But I would argue that a small screen that is right in front of your face actually becomes a big screen. And people who consume video content are often consuming them with their headphones on, and it actually becomes quite a cinematic experience. If you juxtapose that experience with, call it a lean-back TV viewing experience, you legitimately have a tablet, a mobile device, you've got food on the stove, you've got kids screaming. There's a lot of distractions that are happening in that kind of viewing experience, where you do legitimately have a second and third screen type of environment, whereas when you're consuming video on your mobile phone, that is the only device, and you're very much in a lean-in state, that is the only device. There is no distraction outside of what you're viewing right in front of your face. And that is what this long-winded kind of conversation takes me to, which is, and this is a YouTube study, people are 2 times more focused on mobile video content than on TV. Now, why is that important? Well, we've got plenty and plenty of research and literature that says that if you have someone's undivided attention, if you've got someone's real focus on a particular piece of content, it reflects incredibly positively when it comes to the recall of the communication, the awareness of the brand, and as well as purchase intent. So when we talk about impact and standing out in a cluttered environment, mobile video as a medium lends itself towards delivering this type of impact. We can talk about creative here, and you'll see by the yellow notes over here, there is a caveat to the slide that I'd like to point out. But essentially, in terms of delivering content on YouTube, we all know the way that we position it is that there are no creative restrictions, and a brand should be able to tell their story in the right amount of time to tell their story, and it's actually all about the story. There are different schools of thought when it comes to what works best on mobile, and some of you may have seen the Unskippable Labs research, which is part of this slide, which kind of debunks the myth that, you know, shorter, sharper communication on mobile works best, where they had a longer piece of communication on mobile which worked best. My personal opinion on this is you need to be very careful when using this slide because you know, only very few brands can actually pull that off. And most of the data that we see is that your shorter, sharper videos for most other brands generally work best on mobile. So just kind of use this with caution, as well as the other caveat being is that we don't, you know, depending on where your client is at, we don't want clients to start getting freaked out about having to make 3 different productions when it goes to the creative agency. So if a client really is kind of like, we want to get mobile right, and you know, we know mobile is the future, and we want to understand best practice on mobile content, this slide and links to different resources on the slide is useful. But if you've got a kind of a brand dipping their feet into the digital water, and you know, they just want to put their TVCs onto YouTube, then I would use this slide with caution. In terms of also debunking a bit of a myth, if we had this presentation 3 years ago, this slide probably would have said something along the lines of, you know, you need to understand how mobile impacts the path to purchase, and people do a whole bunch of researching on mobile, but they actually land up transacting on desktop. That's how we've been speaking, you know, a couple of years back. But as you know, and as you'll know yourselves, people are making more and more purchases and taking more and more action on their mobile phones, thanks to, you know, phones getting bigger, phones getting better, websites getting better. You know, people are just doing more and more on their mobile phones. Interesting fun fact for everyone. So you guys know Alibaba, the e-commerce player in China. So they created a massive day called Singles Day, which they invented on the 11th of the 11th. So, you know, 1111. And on that day, they transacted $14.3 billion worth of sales in one day, which is, if you take Cyber Monday, Black Friday, and Thanksgiving, and you double that, you don't get to that number. And 70% of those transactions happened on mobile. So for me, that's a real kind of staggering statistic and a real shift in how people are starting to purchase. And part of, you know, all the product developments that we're doing in the video space, with our interactivity with our TrueView shoppable formats, is ready to help people on that path to purchase and create a very frictionless experience in order to help them do that. Viewability, which is a very hot topic for brands out there and for everyone, I'm sure. Well, YouTube as a platform, according to our active viewability standard, which is an MRC accredited technology, we've released studies showing that YouTube as a platform is, this is mobile, is 94% viewable, our content. Desktop is 91% viewable, and the average viewability of video ads across the web is around 54%. So we're very strong in the viewability argument. We're also busy working with third-party viewability vendors to get third-party verification. And if you want to benchmark ourselves and you're pitching and you know that Facebook's going in strong with your clients, this is something that Facebook is struggling with and something that we're very strong with. So it's a nice kind of strength in our positioning. And lastly, to driving results. So I'm sure you guys will be aware of brand lift surveys, so I don't have to delve into the detail of that. I will call out one thing, and I'll call it out with kind of a precaution, is that, as you may or may not know, we can deliver brand lift surveys across device. So we are able to see brand lift survey results across desktop, mobile, and tablets. Generally, we're encouraged not to compare across different devices. But I will send you, there is the resource in here. If you do need to compare mobile and your clients are asking you, like, okay, you're saying that mobile is delivering greater impact and you've got more of attention of your consumer and you've sold me on this kind of effectiveness side of things, you're running brand lift surveys, so I'd like to see the proof on that. So we are able to then bring that out. And the way to measure that is to look at absolute lift, not relative lift. So I don't want to get into too much detail. The deck provides the detail there, but for those that are familiar with brand lift surveys, relative lift, the results are skewed because of the different response rates across devices. So absolute lift is the metric that you should be looking at, and all the studies that we've done internally will show that mobile, when it comes to ad recall, generally delivers a greater results than any other device. So our claims are actually backed by the results. So it's just good to know that. And then in terms of delivering interesting, and you guys can customize these slides, of course. I've just called out a couple things here, but we're able to show brands, for example, based off of their campaigns, what was the increase in interest in terms of Google searches and YouTube searches. Brand lift also now shows purchase intent as well, which I think is very attractive and very exciting for brands. So this is just to kind of summarize the fact that we've got very, very cheap but best-in-class measurement solutions that can help brands understand across device what is the kind of impact that they're receiving from their campaigns. And last but not least, as you guys will know, we have our unique reach solution. And this slide is to be used for a client specifically. So you would pull a unique reach report for a specific client. You wouldn't be able to share it to anyone else. So that's why we've got client logo here. And again, in the slide, I've got references to the resource, but you could use this as a very kind of nice way of showcasing how much incremental reach mobile is delivering to a particular campaign. And there are also step-by-steps to figure out using Reach Explorer the fact that not only is mobile delivering extra reach, it's delivering it at a cheaper cost per unique reach. So it's delivering on the efficiency as well as the effectiveness. And as a follow-up slide, which I don't have in this deck, but you could use with Reach Explorer, is to then say, okay, now that you're sold with how mobile is delivering for you, if you want to increase the reach of your audience, you need to increase your budget by X. So this slide is a great segue into showing that mobile really, your audience is on mobile and we're delivering you to your audience, and then you have a follow-up slide to say, well, if you want to reach more of your audience, this is what you'd have to spend. So that's the end of it. As you can see, we've come a hell of a long way, and both in hairstyle as well as the way in which we have used the mobile phone. And I'm hoping that this presentation would have kind of clearly laid out how we as Google and YouTube can be a really key partner to help brands grow in this constantly connected mobile world. And just to summarize, we're going to help brands do that through reaching better qualified customers at scale, impacting the purchase decision to win those moments that matter, and drive measurable results. So that's me. So thank you, everyone. Cool. So that's the presentation. Any questions? We've got, I guess, 10, 15 minutes. Any concerns? Anything else you'd like to know?
I have a question here. Oh, sorry, someone.
So I just want to say thanks very much. That was actually really interesting. So, yeah, guys, any questions?
Sure.
Okay, so I have a question. So, if you think of a big traditional branding client like CPG, auto stuff, what do you think is the best approach for them to start working on mobile with the objective of following these micro moments or finding those moments with their clients?
What is the kind of level of what is their kind of sophistication? Because I think that's if they're a client that is not doing a lot of video advertising with us, then I would say, start the conversation with, extend your reach, right? If the client has understood that as a proposition and then they want to do more, then we can delve more into how can we use our formats and our functionality and our interactivity and our shoppable capabilities, our app download functionality to drive deeper engagement and bottom line. So I'd start first and foremost with the reach conversation. Let us help you extend your reach, very simple. And then the second tier conversation would be how can we use all of our format functionality and capability as well as our targeting capabilities to deliver meaningful moments.
Yes, because I was thinking about clients that they have that reach strategy, but for them digital is just digital. It's like an extra reach for their strategy. And for them, it's the same going desktop or mobile. They just want video and they just want to be on digital. And I think they're not taking advantage of all the opportunities. Most of them are not taking advantage of all the opportunities that we would have. So the question was like, yes, what do you think is like a good insight or input to start convincing these big clients into start doing more sophisticated strategies?
Well, yeah, I think that probably like it would start before this kind of communication, where it would probably be like, you know, showing them like the size of their audience that is actually on the platform, and the importance of them being, you know, where their audience is at. So once they understand that, it's like great, and then they're like, okay, so then what can you guys help me with in terms of delivering meaningful messages? So I think always the starting point is to say, well, your audience is on YouTube, and any TV buyer and any kind of traditional buyer will know about the laws of diminishing returns. So, you know, your live TV viewers, your millennials, your cord cutters are extremely expensive to reach in traditional means, and this is where, you know, our proposition is extremely strong. So if they want to reach an audience at a cheaper price, then they should be advertising with us.
Okay, cool, thank you.
I had a question about tablet. So we talk a lot about smartphone, we are talking a lot about desktop,
yeah.
And tablet is like in the middle, and
yeah.
I wonder if this is a kind of strategical device, like a smartphone, or a kind of gadget that we don't, like, you know.
It's a great question. So when it comes to, it's a difficult one to answer, because when it comes to ad serving, tablet and desktop are grouped together. So in our kind of
in AdWords,
yeah,
grouped together with mobile.
Oh really? Yeah. So then that complicates it even further.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll just give it to you like what our understanding of in terms of its behavior. Tablet used to be viewed as a mobile device. It's no longer viewed as a mobile device because people mainly consume tablets at home. That's the reality of the consumption of the device, which means very few people outside of, you know, people who look very strange taking photos with their tablets are actually carrying their tablets with them. And when people do travel with tablets, it's generally on a plane to watch a video, a movie, or whatever the case is. So if you want to have that distinction of what is a mobile device and what is a kind of non-mobile device, tablet and desktop, we see similar behavior, we see similar results, and mobile we see different behavior because of the intimacy, because of the fact that people are on the go, because of the fact that people are accessing content via Wi-Fi, using their data, etc. So it's that's the way we look at it from a behavioral perspective. Cool. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question regarding the measurement and the reporting that we can provide to the clients, because I know that this is still quite a big challenge, in fact, to provide cross-device reporting, and also we were just talking today about the offline-online conversions as well. So do you have any insights regarding the future of reporting that we are going to be able to provide?
So is your question around what is the kind of roadmap for like understanding the offline to the online to offline?
I think both. So first of all, the cross-device,
yeah.
if there are any plans to kind of improve the reporting that we are providing to client, and the second one would be the online and offline.
So the cross-device, so we're doing a lot of work around that with our unique reach reporting, and that's essentially supposed to be solving the cross-device issue. And we've got our reporting in place, and we're going to move it into our planning. So it's going to, all of that data is going to move into our planning, and then ultimately to targeting. So it's a massive machine to move, but ultimately we want to get to the place where we're allowing advertisers to do goal-based buying and actually say, right, here's my media mix. I want 40% on mobile, 30% on desktop, blah blah blah. And you can actually target that way. So we're moving in that direction. It's a massive thing to kind of get done, and hopefully during, you know, through the course of 2016 we should get all the way there. Offline to online, online to offline is very challenging. I know there's a lot of activity happening on the performance side of things, so we're trying to measure in-store transactions. There's a lot of activity happening around beacon technology. So we're really trying to close the loop, and we potentially might be providing some hardware to retailers which has been tested in the US and it's now being tested in the UK to try and actually use that data and use like what you call it, the digital wallet, and try and make sense of it all. So, you know, Google Wallet, Apple Pay, these things are going to kind of open up closing that loop a lot better. And then from a branding perspective, we have a lot of research that's being done right now. I'm not sure if you guys are aware, called Sales Lift. Have you heard of that? So there's someone on my team dedicated to this project where I'm not exactly sure how many research pieces we'll have by the end of the year, but we're aiming for around 150 different types of research pieces. I'm not sure if it'll be ready by the end of this year, maybe midway of next year, around running, collaborating with clients, collaborating with retailers, collaborating all the way end to end, and showcasing the sales lift from the campaigns that we run. Okay. So we may not be able to do it case by case, but we're going to have a lot of research to back that story up.
So this is more for branding clients, yeah?
That would be more for branding clients, yeah. So to say like these guys, it's being run by the BSI side of the organization, which is the brand, my side of the organization. So you ran YouTube, you did display, you did these things which are branding focused, and this resulted in a 25% increase in sales lift outside of your other activity, whatever that case is.
Okay, yeah. Interesting.
Any other questions?
Currently, we're not able to remarket from mobile ads.
Mobile mastheads,
yeah, or mobile mastheads,
yeah,
or even in-stream. I imagine we can't do that.
We can to a point. We don't have full coverage.
Remarket video, but not like a particular format.
Yes.
So, is there any plan to
definitely
do that?
Absolutely. There's a lot of kind of technical barrier behind that because of the app environment and the fact that we don't pass cookies that well in the app environment. So there are technical challenges behind that, but it's on our roadmap for sure. It's kind of one of the key asks.
Well, for the next year or
soon. Yeah. I mean, it's very hard. Obviously, working with my job is very difficult. Working with product managers and engineers because you know they tell us a date and then things change and it's difficult to say. But definitely, in the first half of next year, we'll have that. Cool. Any other questions? Going once, going twice. Right, so you all have 8 minutes back of your day. Hope you enjoyed that. Thanks, Katrina, for organizing. And yeah, feel free to reach out to me if you've got any questions.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Cheers.
Yeah.